Good afternoon, students. Prasanna here. I am going to handle the transdisciplinary course Indian Constitution for you all. Before getting into the course, let us have an introduction about the course. In this introductory lecture, we will be seeing what is Constitution, why we are in need of Constitution, and the history of Indian Constitution. Almost everything we do is governed by some set of rules. There are rules for games like cricket, hockey, etc., for social clubs, and for the students in colleges, schools, also for the adults in workplace. There are also rules imposed by morality and customs that plays an important role in telling us what we should and should not do. For example, according to the rule of football, if the ball touches the arms of any player except the goalkeeper, then this is considered as a foul. So, if players start holding the ball in their hand and passing it around, are not allowed to play anymore. This helps us to define the game and helps us to distinguish one game from other. As these are fundamental to the games, we can call them the constitutive rule of the game. Like these games, a society also have constitutive rules that makes it what it is and how it differs from other kind of societies. In large societies in which different community people live together, these rules are formulated through consents. In modern countries, this consent is usually available in written form. A written document in which we find such rule as constitution. In general, the constitution is the supreme law of the land. A constitution is concerned with two main aspects. The first aspect is relation between the different level of government, and the second is the relation between the government and citizen. According to Patrick Henry, the Constitution is defined as the Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government. Why do we need Constitution? We are in need of Constitution to perform the following functions. The first function of Constitution is to provide a set of basic rules that allows for minimal coordination among members of a society. The second function of a Constitution is to specify who has the power to make decisions in a society. It decides how the government will be constituted. The third function of Constitution is to set some limitations on what a government can possess on its citizens. These limits are fundamental in the sense that government may ever trespass them. The fourth function of the Constitution is to enable the government to fulfill the separation of a society and create conditions for a just society. History of Constitution. India is a home of ancient Indus Valley civilization which goes back to 3300 to 1300 BC. India is a world famous for its ancient history and culture. The time before 500 AD is widely accepted as a era of ancient India. The earliest anatomical modern humans remains found in South Asia dated from approximately 30,000 years ago. But regarding to the constitutional history, India goes back to only 3rd century BC in the time of Emperor Ashoka the Great. Emperor Ashoka Maurya during the period of 324 BC to 185 BC established the constitutional principles, engraved them in major rocks, pillar and on minor rocks for public. In the period of 1599 AD to 1765 AD, the East Indian Company came to India as a trading company. In 1765, it became an administrative power after gaining the right of taxation in Bengal after defeating the Nawab of Bengal at Battle of Plassey in the year 1757. During the period of 1765 to 1858 AD, East Indian Company established a unified control over the whole of India from a single center in Calcutta. Different laws were enforced by company and remained in power and authority, but the company came under increasing control by Parliament of Britain, and its rule ended with the revolution of 1857. During the period of 1858 AD to 1947 AD, it is a period of British Raj. During this period, the Indian Constitution took a shape. The main stages of its evolutions were during this period. The Act of Better Government of India. This put India directly under the control of the British government. It set up the office of the Secretary of State, member of British, working under the Secretary of State, lead the administration. Indian Council Act. A separate legislative council was set up to assist the Governor General in making laws. Indians could be appointed to the council, but only on the discretion of the Governor General. Indian Council Act 1892. As a result of India demands, the size of executive and legislative councils were increased. More Indians were appointed to the council, and the principle of election was introduced. Indian Council Act 1909. This act increased the size of council again and also gave the legislative council the power to discuss certain matters and to ask questions. More peoples were elected to the council. Government of India Act 1919. This introduced partial responsible government at the provincial level. Elected Indians were given charges to some areas of government at the provincial level. Government of India Act 1935. The introduced provincial autonomy, responsible government at the provincials with elected Indians in charges of administration and responsible to the elected legislators. A federal government was proposed through it and did not come into effect at the center was introduced. Indian Independence Act 1947. The British gave up control of the government of India to two dominants, India and Pakistan. For the time being, till the constitution was made, both of them could be governed in accordance with the Government of India Act 1935. Constitution of India 1950. The Constitution was enacted by the Constitution Assembly on 26 November 1949 and came into effect on 26 January 1950. The date 26 January was chosen to commemorate the Purna Swaraj Declaration of Independence of 1930. With its adaptation, the Union of India officially became the modern and contemporary Republic of India, and it replaced the Government of India Act 1935 as the country's fundamental governing document. Efforts were made to have consensus on different issues and principles and thereby avoid disagreements. This came in the form of objective resolution moved by Jawaharlal Nehru in the Constitution Assembly on December 17, 1946, which was almost unanimously adopted on January 22, 1946. Framing of Constitution. The Constitution Assembly of India was elected to write the Constitution of India, following India's independence from Great Britain. Its members served as the nation's first parliament. This body was formed in 1946 for the purpose of making independent Indian Constitution. The Assembly passed a resolution in 1947 January Defining the objective of the Constitution. The objectives were to set up an Union of India comprising British India and princely states, to set up a federal form of government with separate state and central governments, to set up a democracy in which all power is reserved from the people, where all peoples were guaranteed justice, equality and freedom, where minorities, depressed classes and the tribals' rights are protected, to protect the integrity of India and her sovereign right over land, sea and air, to help India attain its rightful place in the world and work for peace and welfare of all mankind. Dr. Sachidananda Sinha was the first president of Constitution Assembly when it met on December 9, 1946. Later, Dr. Rajendra Prasad became the president of Constitution Assembly and Dr. Bhimarao Ambedkar became the chairman of it, drafting the Constitution on December 11, 1946. The Constitution Assembly consists of 385 members, of which 292 were elected by the elected members of Provincial Legislative Assembly, while 93 members were nominated by princely states. The Constitution of India was not framed by our own. It is being borrowed from several nations. Nominal head, president, cabinet system of ministers, post of prime minister, parliamentary type of government, bicameral parliament, lower house more powerful, council of ministers responsible to lower house, provisions of speakers in Lok Sabha. These things are being borrowed from United Kingdom. The written constitution, appointment of vice president, fundamental rights, Supreme Court, head of the state known as president, provision of states, judicial reviews were borrowed from USA. Concurrent list, current state relationship, language of the preamble are being borrowed from Australia. Fundamental duties, 5-year plans are borrowed from USSR. Emergency provisions are borrowed from Germany. Law on which Supreme Court function is borrowed from Japan. Federal system and residual powers were borrowed from Canada. Procedure for constitutional amendment were borrowed from South Africa. Concept of directive principle of state policy were borrowed from Ireland. The assembly met in session open to public for 66 days, spread over a period of 2 years, 11 months and 18 days before adopting the constitution. It was finally passed and accepted on November 26, 1949. All the 284 members of the assembly signed the official copy of the Indian constitution. The Indian constitution was a written constitution and it was written by Prem Bihari Narayan Rizat, and the pages were decorated by the artists from Shanti Niketan. The artists were Vihor Ramohar Sinha and Nandala Bose. After many deliberation and some modifications over 111 plenary sessions in 114 days, the 308 members of assembly signed 2 copies of the document, one in Hindi and one in English, on 24 January 1950. Same day, the assembly anonymously elected Dr. Rajendra Prasad as the President of India, which came into effect on January 26, 1950, known and celebrated as the Republic Day of India. The original handwritten copies of the Constitution are stored in the library of the Parliament of India. That's all about the introduction and history of Indian Constitution. That's all about the history of Constitution. Meet you all in the next video lecture on salient features of our Indian Constitution. Feel free to ask doubts in the Moodle comment box or through WhatsApp. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.